You wouldn't have your job if you weren't beautiful. It's very sad.
It must be a pretty picture you drop in.
And I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face. She's gotten a little bit large. I don't think you should dress like you weigh 120 pounds.
I don't want to sound too much like a chauvinist, but when I come home and dinner's not ready, I go through the roof.
A person who's flat-chested is very hard to be a 10.
She ate like a pig.
You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
The boob job is terrible. You know, they look like two light posts coming out of a body.
Is unattractive both inside and out. I fully understand why her former husband left her for a man.
Maybe she should feel that way.
There are a lot of women out there that, demand that the husband act like the wife.
I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. She's really a beautiful baby. She's got Marla's legs. We don't know whether or not she's got this part yet, but time will tell.
What happens if Marla gained this kind of weight? Would you drop her?
I'd say start working out.
I have no respect for her. I don't think she's very good.
I would say she's in the 4 or 5 category.
Right.
I like the way she used to look. I don't like the way she looks now.
There are 2 other women now who claim that there'd been sexual harassment.
They probably do love their names splashed across the front pages. You say, oh, hello, darling, how are you? And you get sued because you've destroyed somebody's life. It's ridiculous.
You have a young woman that was in his room, his hotel room, late in the evening at her own will. You have a young woman who was seen dancing for the beauty contest, dancing with a big smile on her face.
Planned Parenthood should absolutely be defunded.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah.
Do you think she felt pressure to come back after 3 weeks?
I don't think so. I think she loves her job.
She wouldn't have felt a need to do that because you might have replaced her otherwise.
No. Although it's an interesting premise.
I have been better to women than any of these candidates, frankly.
You've probably known the story for quite a while that at one point, Michael Cohen, former very close employee to Donald Trump, had been walking with him at a golf club. Donald Trump commented on the physical appearance of a woman that he saw playing tennis, saying that he would like a piece of that. And Michael Cohen pointed out to him that that was Michael Cohen's 15-year-old daughter. That's just what Trump does. That's just what he does, and we've known that story for some time. But now Samantha Cohen, the former 15-year-old that Trump had sexualized in that way, went on CNN to speak with Allison Camerota about it. And here is how she talked about that particular incident.
You were at President Trump's, well, he was just Donald Trump, his country club, and you were playing tennis, and you came off the court. And here's how it was written in Vanity Fair. Somehow Trump's attention was diverted to another skirt walking off a tennis court. Quote, look at that piece of ass. Cohen recalls Trump saying as he whistled and pointed, quote, I would love some of that. It so happened that Trump was referring to Cohen's then 15-year-old daughter, Samantha. Do you remember that moment? Because it goes on to write that after that you came over, he wanted you to give him a kiss. And he said, when did you get such a great figure?
So as I told Emily, the story is a little bit less clear to me. I'm sure many women can relate. You become desensitized to men making these kinds of comments to you, and you allow them to go over your head and you kind of tune out the noise. But what stood out to me in that moment was he said to my dad, well, there's no way that she got her looks from you. Thank God you married a beautiful woman. And I was desensitized to men making creepy comments about me, but I was not desensitized to someone blatantly insulting and degrading my father in front of me, someone who I looked up to and loved very much. And that was very upsetting to me. And that made me think, okay, maybe Trump doesn't treat my father.
So yeah, I mean, it's obviously horrible that by the time she hit 15, she was already incredibly desensitized to the sorts of comments about herself and was therefore focusing on the Michael Cohen stuff. But yeah, no, it totally happened. And that is, let's say, the 30th creepiest thing that we have him saying about underage girls. Doesn't really crack, doesn't really break through to most people because he said such more horrendous stuff, including about his own daughter, his own flesh and blood. But the only reason I bring this up is we're in a time where millions of Americans say there is one story going on in the world, and that is the international network of rich elites and their pedophile rings and the sexualization of children. And not one of these sorts of things breaks through to them. That maybe it's not just Bill Gates and Tom Hanks and Chrissy Teigen that are eating children. Maybe the politician that you think is gonna crack down on the whole thing, maybe he's been sexualizing kids the entire time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think there are two camps that we need to consider. One camp consists of people who might have mental health issues, might just not be rational people, don't really care about the truth, might be dishonest actors. I know I'm lumping in a lot of people together, but that's the group of Trump supporters and QAnon conspiracy theorists that you can't make a logical argument to, and it's really a lost cause. It is what it is. They're gonna see that the videos of Trump sexualizing underage girls, they're gonna hear his comments. It does not persuade them, they don't care. However, I think it's important to consider that this whole QAnon conspiracy theory has expanded among the electorate, particularly on the right. And QAnon has created, some interesting entry points for logical people who mean well, but they don't know that they're, maybe following a hashtag that seems completely innocent. But what's behind that hashtag is a pretty organized group of people who are trying to spread a conspiracy theory. So I actually came across a family member of mine who had reposted a QAnon conspiracy theory with the hashtag Save the Children. Save the Children is a super innocent sounding, awesome sounding hashtag, right? It seems like the type of activism you'd want to get involved in. Of course, who doesn't want to save the children? The problem is it's one of the entry points on social media to begin to radicalize certain people, unsuspecting people, into this whole QAnon conspiracy theory. And there needs to be a concerted effort to debunk those theories. I think there needs to be a way to inform people and educate people about what's really going on. I think that the whole conspiracy theory community is constantly mutating into different things. For instance, there are people who go to these QAnon gatherings, right? And they have no idea about what happened. I believe it was Comet Pizza in Washington, D.C., where there was a conspiracy theory about how this random pizzeria in DC was running a child trafficking ring. Of course, that wasn't the case. Of course, it was complete nonsense. But there was an unhinged lunatic who shows up with a gun and could have potentially killed innocent people as a result. If you talk to some who follow the Save the Children hashtag and go to these gatherings, they don't even know about that, right? Some of them are completely unaware of it. So. Yeah, it's just something to keep in mind as this type of story develops, because it is incredibly dangerous, it is damaging, and the way that social media companies run does help some of the most dishonest, destructive people in society radicalize unsuspecting people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that people need to take it seriously, especially since we're gonna have at least a few elected officials after November that support the QAnon theory. Here at TDR, we're QAnon free. We follow R. He's got the true predictions of what's gonna happen. But anyway, yeah, one thing that I just wish, and my last point is, I wish in America we could ever have an extremist, crazy, radical movement that's at least kind of consistent. If the crazy anti-abortion people really cared about the kids, and also they did a bit of picketing of abortion clinics, and then they also demanded that low-income women get money and resources so that they can bring up their kids in with a high quality of life or something. Make it consistent. If the intellectual dark web actually seemed to care at all about free speech outside of being paid huge amounts of money to give speeches at colleges, even once, that would be cool. And then with QAnon, I think that there are some regular people that are worried about kids. I think a lot of it is just political opportunism. A lot of it is just people who need something to distract them from how horrific the world is, and they don't really care about the kids at all. It's just, this seems exciting. And then I think there's a significant number that are, I'll just say it, that have really perverted views of children. I think that that's probably it. I'm not saying that they're active pedophiles, they sleep with kids, but I think to go about your life believing believing that it's rational to think that the vast majority of Americans or people around the world want to sleep with 12-year-olds. If you believe that, I really do think that that says more about you than about the rest of the world, because that seems crazy to me. I don't think that's what people are like. And as I mentioned on the main show, a major QAnon subreddit shut down because the guy running it admitted in a big post that you can read that he had been struggling with desires to look at child pornography for literally years. It's this weird sort of projection. But anyway, I'm just saying, if you're gonna be a part of it, I'm not saying you have to trust every one of the accusations against Donald Trump, but just understand that these aren't crazy speculation. He is on the record, on video, sexualizing young girls, whether they're blood related to him or otherwise, going back literally decades. Just pretend to factor that in to your ongoing campaign against the international child trafficking rings. That's all I'm saying.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.
I moved on her, actually. She was down in Palm Beach. I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and her. She was married.
It's huge news, Sarah.
No, Nancy. Yeah. No, this was marriages. And I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there. And she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look.
She's your girl's hot as shit. In the purple.
Whoa!
Yes!
Whoa!
Yes, the Donald has scored.
Whoa!
Oh my man! Wait! You gotta look at me when you get out. You're like,
set this up.
That is very.
You give me the thumbs
Look
up.
at you. You are a.
You gotta put the thumbs up. You gotta get the thumbs up. Can't be too happy.
First? Yeah, let me.
It's very fun.
You gotta give me the thumbs up.
You and I will walk there.
Oh my god.
Maybe it's a different one.
Better not be the publicist. No, it's her.
Yeah, that's her with the gold. I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything.
Look at those legs. All I can see is the legs.
No, it looks good.
Come on, shorty.
Oh, nice legs, huh?
Oof, get out of the way, honey. That's good legs. Go ahead.
It's always good if you don't fall out of the bus. Like Ford, Gerald Ford, remember?
Down below. Pull the handle.
Hello, how are you? Hi.
Mr. Trump, how are
nice seeing you. Terrific.
Pleasure to meet you.
Terrific. You know Billy Bush?
How are you?
Nice to see you. How you doing, Ariane?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Are you ready to be a soap star?
We're ready. Let's go. Make me a soap star.
How about a little hug for the Donald? He just got off the bus.
Would you like a little hug,
Okay,
darling?
absolutely. Melania said this was okay.
He's done so many things, but there's this long list of women that nobody's talking about. I don't know how many women it would take to come forward. I mean, it shouldn't take this many women.
Amy Doris is the latest woman to accuse President Donald Trump of sexual misconduct. Since she spoke out last month, she's been hiding out at a friend's. This is her first time back home. What have the last few weeks been like for you?
They've been kind of a roller coaster. It's nice to be in my house right now, but it's strange. There's like Trump flags across the street. So.
Yeah, you've got a lot of Trump signs all around this house.
Yeah, it's kind of unnerving.
Doris is one of 26 women who have accused Trump of sexual misconduct, ranging from groping to kissing to rape. Vice News spoke with several of these women.
I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet.
That recording told me that this is something he does.
I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it.
Because you're a star, they don't care. We do care.
You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the pussy.
That's crazy. He's just totally admitted it, of what he did to me all those years ago.
I moved on her like a bitch.
People were shocked, but it didn't surprise my husband or me at all. And we were sort of like, okay, I'm glad that the world can see what he's like.
It was sort of like redemption to hear it.
It did amaze me that this had been exposed. It also amazed me that Trump floated to the surface and went on without any sort of retribution for his behavior.
He's admitted it on tape that he does these things. Like, what more do you need?
Doris met Trump in 1997 when she was visiting New York on vacation.
I was 24. I was dating this guy, Jason Bin. He asked me to go with him to New York, kind of a long weekend. And we went to see Donald Trump, and we all went to the US Open together. We went up to the VIP booth. Then I went and sat with the ladies for a little while watching the match. Got up to go to the bathroom. And when I came out of the bathroom, Donald was standing there, and he put his hands on my arms.
Was he talking to you? Was he saying anything?
He would say stuff like, you belong with me, and then he leaned in for a kiss, and I kind of pushed him away. And then he kind of came in stronger and started holding my arms where I couldn't move. I used all my strength to try to get away from him. The more I pushed, the tighter his grip got. I felt stuck, I felt trapped. And that's when he forced the kiss and put his tongue in my mouth and forced everything on me. And that's when I pushed his tongue out with my teeth and probably hurt his tongue.
What were you saying to him?
No. I was like, no, no, no. And it didn't mean no for him. So he just forced himself on me. I've never had any other man do that to me.
Doris said she confided in several individuals about the incident at the time, a number of whom, including her mother and close friends, corroborated her story with us. Trump's lawyers responded to Doris's claims by saying that Trump had never harassed, abused, or behaved improperly towards Doris, and that if her version of events were true, there would have been witnesses. Do you think that it was a concern of his that it was in a public space, or?
I don't think it was, because it was his public space. It was his box. The people that were there were invited by him. I don't think it was a concern to him at all.
The stories these women tell are strikingly similar. The alleged unwanted kissing or groping would occur seemingly out of the blue and often in public places, some even in the exact same locations.
This person thinks it's that I am just his property. Almost like he owns the US Open. I hear, who's this? We don't know this one. Oh, look at these legs. I kind of looked around thinking, is he talking about me?
I was on an airplane, and sitting next to me was kind of a blondish big man, and he introduced himself as Donald Trump.
One day when I was at work, it was probably maybe 8:45 in the morning, I saw Trump outside at the elevator bank, and I got up and introduced myself.
So I was sitting on a couch in the China Club. It was packed, and he was sitting to this side of me. And then all of a sudden, I just feel this hand, like a pinch, on my girl parts.
He just came over, put his arm around me, and then he slipped his hand in and went to the side of my breast, and then he held my breast.
He took my hand and we shook, and he did give me sort of the double cheek kiss, and then he would pull me back in and do it again. and he kept kissing me on my cheeks, and I thought, well, this is weird. And then, yeah, finally he pulled me in and kissed me on my lips.
He leaned into me, and he was trying to kiss me and trying to put his tongue in my mouth. He was dominating me.
I never actually met Donald Trump. He never introduced himself to me. I was never introduced to him.
One of the things that was so shocking about it was the fact that literally, other than, how do you do, my name is Jessica, there was no conversation.
As I moved and looked over my shoulder, that's when I saw the eyebrows, because he had these crazy bushy eyebrows.
I went home that night and told my boyfriend and just cried. We talked about it, and just, there was really no recourse that we saw.
Never breathed a word of what had happened to anybody. Shuffled it away in my memory as something that I was not going to forget.
And I just kind of figured, well, I guess he figures he can do what he wants, because he's Donald Trump.
The Access Hollywood tape surfaced just days before the 2016 election. But it wasn't Trump's comments that made these women speak up. It was his flat-out denial.
I believe it was the second debate. He was asked, did you ever molest a woman?
Have you ever done those things?
Have respect for me, and I will tell you, no, I have not.
I was like, no, like this, he's lying, like he always does.
I found myself standing in front of my TV, yelling at the TV, and I thought, I know what I will do. I'm going to write a letter to the editor.
These vicious claims about me of inappropriate conduct with women are totally and absolutely false.
Once women started speaking out, the backlash was immediate. A lot of people have accused you of speaking up for attention.
There's no good attention that comes from speaking about something like sexual assault for anyone. But I had no idea what the aftermath would be like. I had no idea.
I have a lot of family members are Trump supporters, and they just thought that I was lying, and that I got paid.
There were comments about my looks, you're a liar. Someone wrote, you should put a gun to your head, do this country a favor.
You know, there was everything from like, I don't even like Trump, but you're pathetic, to, oh my God, big deal, get a grip, he grabbed your breast, get over it. We know where you live, we're gonna find you, you and your family are not safe. It was a living nightmare.
Doris also watched the debate, but she didn't come forward at the time. Why is it that you didn't choose to speak up earlier?
Well, when everyone was speaking up, I got really frustrated because I was like, I know they're telling the truth because it happened to me. But my girls were 8 and my kids got older, and, you know, I talked to my therapist about it. I really, really went into the, you know, what could happen and how can we prepare for it. I finally came to a place in my life that it was time for me to come out.
Trump's legal team have said that the fact that you're speaking up now so close to the 2020 election suggests that this could be politically motivated. Is it in any way politically motivated?
No, you know, it has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with me and my family. I've volunteered on campaigns. Both those campaigns were Republican, by the way. I worked on Jeb Bush's campaign. If he wasn't running again, I think I'd still come out.
Neither Trump's campaign nor the White House responded to requests for comment. Trump has continually denied all allegations.
I feel so powerful. I'll walk into that audience. I'll walk in there. I'll kiss everyone in that audience. I'll kiss the guys and the beautiful women and everybody. I'll just give you a big fat kiss.
Even as his behavior towards women again comes under scrutiny, Trump is making a desperate bid to get women to show up for him next week.
So can I ask you to do me a favor? Suburban women, will you please like me?
You're the 26th woman to come forward, and, you know, some of these accusations came out before the 2016 election. He still got into power. I mean, do you really think that you speaking up can make any difference at all?
No. This is not going to move the needle on his election whatsoever.
Why do you think it doesn't make a difference? Do you think people don't care?
I don't know. Honestly, I mean, I don't know how many women it would take to come forward. I don't know what more. Do we need hundreds? I mean, would that matter?
I am sure that there are stories out there. And I'm also sure there's a lot of people that just don't want to get involved, but I understand why they don't. The fear of being ridiculed, the fear of not being believed, or I brought it on myself. I wore a skirt.
Nobody would know about this probably if he had not run for president. It's only of importance to most people because he was trying to get the most important job in the world.
What is it that you would say to him if he was sat here instead of me?
If you can grab anything you want without there being any boundary and also consequence, when does it stop?
And I just say very simply, why doesn't he show his birth certificate?
We do not have time for this kind of silliness.
I think that I've developed very, very good relationships over the last little while with the African-American community. I think you can see that.
Look at my African-American over here.
If I were starting off today, I would love to be a well-educated black because I really believe they do have an actual advantage.
Today, I'm very proud of myself.
A well-educated black has a tremendous advantage over a well-educated white in terms of the job market.
I'm not afraid to say it.
Do you believe President Trump is a racist?
Yeah, no question.
And neither is she. Donald Trump is a racist. Here's how we know. When LeBron James opened the I Promise School in Akron, which provides free tuition, free transportation to and from school, free breakfast, lunch, and snacks, GEDs and job placement services for parents, and a fully funded college enrollment to the University of Akron for every graduate.
See stories of kids that's going through the same thing that I went through. It even makes it even more of like, yes, we did this. This is why we should have did it.
Trump did not applaud him, rather questioned his intellect in his favorite forum via an age-old tactic with racial undertones. As Eugene Scott puts it,
the president is using a common talking point from white supremacist communities that black people have less intelligence than white people. He uses stupid and ignorant very often when attacking his black critics, opposed to actually entertaining their argument.
Similarly to Congresswoman Waters.
Maxine Waters, a very low IQ individual.
The language connects up with some of the deepest stereotypes about race that suffuse our culture, said Cal Berkeley law professor Ian Haney Lopez. When Colin Kaepernick protested for racial injustice along with Michael Bennett, Kenny Stills, and other NFL players, Trump said this.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field?
More racial undertones. But when Megan Rapinoe, the freedom-fighting activist, knelt and chose to stay muted during the anthem, Trump brings up criminal justice reform and black unemployment. More on that in a second. Says he's a big fan of the American team and invites her to the White House. What a double standard. As for low black unemployment, the ubiquitous talk of it is a way to shield Trump from accusations of racism, says Clarence Lusane, chair of the political science department at Howard University. He tweeted, if a player wants the privilege of making millions of dollars in the NFL or other leagues, he or she should not be allowed to disrespect the flag, essentially saying, we allowed you to get out of a bad neighborhood and make millions, so you must obey, shut up and play. He declared war on black America a long time ago. This is not new, civil rights activist DeRay McKesson said, and he's right, from attacking black journalists.
What a stupid question that is.
To saying immigrants from Haiti all have AIDS, and 40,000 Nigerians, once seeing the US, would never go back to their huts. To still saying the exonerated five should have been executed. To saying of Nazis,
very fine people on both sides.
The evidence is clear as day. Trump has a bullseye on black America through our sports. We're seeing fascism at its finest, said Stephen A. Green, president of the People's Consortium. We're seeing that this president is taking any means necessary to humiliate those who are willing to take a stand for issues that are important to the black community. So athletes can use their platforms to show they won't be intimidated. They can show that this only makes them stronger together. If you'd like to hear more thought-provoking content like TYT Sports on Facebook and to help in my journey to keep media independent, go to tyt.com/Rick.
A lot of really creepy statements, actions for sure, but statements that he's made in the past that make me very uncomfortable, certainly as a mother, but as a person who breathes air.
You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
Really creepy statements.
If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Oh, it's so weird. Stop. You know what? You are sick. Yeah.
It makes me very uncomfortable that he would look at certain other Americans the way he apparently has in the past.
What does Tiffany have of Marlon's?
She's got Marlon's legs.
Creepy.
We don't know whether or not she's got this part yet, but time will tell.
What's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
He's definitely not a typical father.
Creepy. A lot of really creepy statements, actions for sure, but statements that he's made in the past that make me very uncomfortable, certainly as a mother, but as a person who breathes air.
You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
Really creepy statements.
If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Oh, it's so weird. Stop. You know what? You are sick. Yeah.
It makes me very uncomfortable that he would look at certain other Americans the way he apparently has in the past.
What does Tiffany have of Marlon's?
She's got Marlon's legs.
Creepy.
We don't know whether or not she's got this part yet, but time will tell.
What's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
He's definitely not a typical father.
Creepy.
You know, we've talked a lot here about some of the racist things Donald Trump has said, for example, about Mexicans.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists.
About kneeling NFL players.
Get that son of a bitch off the field.
And we've talked a lot about the sexist things he said, too. The Access Hollywood tape, of course, comes to mind.
Grab him by the I can do anything.
But it's time we talk about where those two bigotries collide. Because more and more lately, black women have been facing the brunt of the president's belligerence, especially those in the White House press corps, like American Urban Radio Network's correspondent April Ryan, who made the mistake of asking him a question on Wednesday.
Sit down, please. Sit down. I didn't call you. Excuse me. Would you please sit down?
And again at the same press conference with PBS correspondent Yamiche Alcindor.
On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also
I don't
saying
know why you'd
that
say
the
that.
president.
It's such a racist
There are
question.
some people.
To say that, what you said is so insulting to me. It's a very terrible thing that you said.
A racist question? I think the president doth project too much, because the racist part of all that wasn't the question, it was the response. Just like his response to CNN's Abby Phillip when she asked about the new acting attorney general, Matthew Whitaker.
Do you want him to rein in Robert Mueller?
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions.
It is obviously not a stupid question, which is why he didn't actually answer it or any of the questions these women asked him. That's why their fellow journalist Brooke Baldwin spoke out on CNN.
There is something so wrong with this. It is beyond disturbing. It is ugly, and I'm angry. They can take these insults. They don't need me sticking up for them, but still.
But still, and I'm angry too, because of course, these are not the first times the president has belittled women of color. He's also repeatedly called California Congresswoman Maxine Waters a low IQ individual. He's called Oprah very insecure. Oprah insecure? And he called Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams unqualified, just to name a few.
To say that, what you said, is so insulting to me. It's a very terrible thing that you said.
Insulting and terrible, indeed.
I am officially running for President of the United States.
This time last election, Donald Trump was facing bombshell allegations of inappropriate behaviour towards women.
Grab him by the pussy. I could do any of that.
I have such respect for women. I cherish women.
Against the odds, he won. And year after year, it seems there's no controversy he can't deflect.
In 39 days, we're going to win 4 more years in the White House.
It's a skill Joe Biden could do well to learn from his opponent.
I worked my whole life to empower women. I worked my whole life to prevent abuse.
You saw him up close as a politician.
Correct.
What kind of political operator is he?
The kind where he smiles, it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing, right?
Here I am in the Senate office.
Long before Joe Biden was a household name across America.
And here's my desk.
Tara Reid worked in his Senate office in the early 90s.
Here's a good picture of Senator Biden.
It was her dream job. She hoped it was the start of a long career in politics.
He was a political hero of mine because I bought into the image. And I really believed he was someone to not only admire, but also I wanted to be like him. Like I had hoped to be maybe a senator or a congressperson someday.
And here's the view from my window.
You sound really happy.
Yeah.
There's my computer. And there's my posters.
I was such like a little puppy, like so eager and happy. Yeah.
Tara says it wasn't long, though, before her political hero turned into a predator.
He would just put his hands on me. He would, whenever there was a meeting or if I would see him, usually he'd put his hand on his shoulder and then he'd run his fingers up underneath my hair, on my neck, and things like that. And I had never experienced that with a boss before, and I didn't know him. It's not like there was like small talk, like where we would, you know what I'm saying? There was no reciprocal relationship or flirtation. There was nothing like that. So it was just very much him coming into a room, putting his hand on me or whatever.
Did you ever tell him, don't do that to me?
No, I was too scared to say that. I didn't say anything.
Did he touch other women?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just didn't, he seemed to lack boundaries with women.
Some might try to pass the behaviour off as a sign of the times.
Reid was among several women who said Biden had touched them inappropriately.
He's now threatened to undermine his bid for the White House.
No, that ain't right, man. That ain't right.
But it's a pattern of behaviour that remains today.
Those Joe Biden shoulder massages, they're like magic. You should try one. Oh, you have?
Joe Biden recently vowed to be more mindful of personal space after 7 women came forward with claims of inappropriate touching.
I hear what they're saying. I understand it. And I'll be much more mindful. But I'll always believe governing, quite frankly, life for that matter, is about connecting with people. That won't change.
But what Tara Reid claims happened 27 years ago in an open corridor of the Senate is much worse.
So we were alone in this corridor and he said my name, and then the next thing I knew, he pushed me and up against the wall. He kind of moved his body towards me, and then he used his knee to separate my legs. He said, He said, I want to fuck you. And he was whispering in my ear and he was kissing me and I was trying to get away from him. And then when I pulled away,
You right?
He had taken his hands and put them down my skirt and taken one hand and penetrated me with his fingers. And when I pulled away, he pulled back. And he looked at me like kind of almost annoyed. And he said, "Come on, man, I heard you liked me." And that's when I could see that he was angry, and he put his finger kind of towards my face and he said, "You know, you're nothing to me. You're nothing."
In Tara's account, it was a senator's word against a first-year assistant. So she kept quiet, only breaking down to her mother on the phone.
She was telling me to go to the police right then, like to go to the police and to keep what I was wearing and on and to go to the police.
Why did you resist going to the police?
You know, they're there to protect the senators and congressmen. They're not there to protect us.
It would be 2 long years in 1995 before Tara told anybody else about the alleged assault, confiding in her neighbour, Linda Lacasse.
She basically said that he had put her up against the wall. He put his hands up her skirt and he put his fingers inside her.
What did you say?
I said, "I think you should file a police report." She was upset. She was crying.
Did you doubt what she was saying at all?
No, I didn't.
What prompted you to come forward and publicly corroborate her story?
I felt that I needed to tell the truth.
Did Tara ask you to come forward?
I volunteered.
You filed a written complaint to the Senate, but in it you only mention Biden's inappropriate behaviour. You don't mention the sexual assault. And I'm wondering why you wouldn't mention that, because there is a very big difference between inappropriate behaviour and sexual assault.
Because I was afraid to. I mean, I consciously did that. The way they had it set up at that time, it was you fill out this form and hand it back. I didn't know who was reading it, and I was too scared. So I thought at a one-on-one that I would reveal that and talk about it, but I didn't feel comfortable.
After nothing came of the harassment complaint she says she filed to the Senate in the 90s,
Tara Reade emotionally describing what she says happened in the spring of 1993.
It wasn't until 2019 that Tara then shared her story publicly, saying that Joe Biden touched her in ways that made her uncomfortable. But, just like her formal complaint at the time, it was only half a story. She says she wasn't ready to talk about the alleged sexual assault.
So what changed for you? What made you think, no, I'm going to tell the full truth?
I decided that people needed to know he's going to the highest office of the land. He's running on a platform of character. Well, I know what he's like. I know what his character's like. And he doesn't deserve the presidency based on what happened to me.
In March this year, Reade came forward with what she said was the full story. By then, many in politics and the media were already questioning her version of events.
Did you sexually assault Tara Reade?
No, it is not true.
And Joe Biden spoke out strongly, denying the allegations.
In every case, the truth is what matters. And in this case, the truth is these claims are flat out false.
Joe Biden has repeatedly said this never happened.
I think deep down he knows. Like, I don't know what his capacity is right now. It's not very clear, but I know he knows. He knows.
What do you say to people who say they don't believe you?
That's okay. You don't have to believe me. I'm the one who has to live with it.
It seems there was very little for you to gain in coming forward.
There's nothing to gain. And in my case, I lost everything. I lost work, legitimacy. I lost my reputation. I lost friendships. I lost my housing, everything, money, everything.
There's also so many people that when they needed consolation, when they needed encouragement, when they needed a hug, have been happy to get that from Joe Biden.
It's an allegation that has received little coverage this election. And unlike Trump's accusers, Tara has received a barrage of scrutiny.
Do you feel as though if Joe Biden wasn't Joe Biden, your allegations would be taken more seriously?
Absolutely. If he was a Republican. I think the fact that he's an elite Democrat put him in this untouchable position. and the media was biased, and people were biased about it.
Former Trump White House press secretary Anthony Scaramucci says, unfortunately, it's just not front of mind for most voters.
I think it matters to some, but it's overweighed, like on the scales, if you will, by some of these big meta forces that are in the United States right now.
If I was a woman voting in America, I would struggle to simply ignore those allegations.
Yeah, but it's on both sides, right? So you've got allegations being made on both sides.
At least 25 women have accused President Trump of sexual misconduct. His response was to call them liars.
How would you describe Donald Trump's view of women?
They're objects. You know, they're just like a car or a shoe or a phone. They're objects in his field of vision.
And there are dozens of women who have made allegations of sexual misconduct against Donald Trump, and yet none of it seems to stick. Why?
Because I think the people that support him have made a decision that he's not a politician. And so because he's never lived his life with great sanctimony or that level of righteousness that politicians live their lives with, his supporters have decided to give him a pass.
Age doesn't excuse misbehaviour, but the Mooch believes it does explain why many voters will choose to overlook these allegations when voting this election.
These are two old-fashioned guys. You know, remember, one's 75, the other's 78, and I think they grew up in a society that was a little bit more patriarchal than the one we're living in now, so they probably had less sensitivity. But I think people will overlook that are voting for Joe Biden the same way they're going to overlook elements of that who are Trump supporters.
We're entering an election. Are you still going to support Joe Biden?
Yes, I'm totally against Donald Trump. So yes, I am going to support him.
That's an interesting decision because you believe that Joe Biden sexually assaulted one of your good friends, and yet you're going to vote for him to be president of the United States.
I do believe that he did that. And yes, and if he becomes president, he's going to be the president who assaulted my very good friend.
How do you grapple with that?
I'm having trouble grappling with it.
Does Tara know that you'll vote for him?
Yes.
Is she okay with that?
Not really, I don't think.
So who are you going to vote for?
I'm not voting in the national election. Maybe next time.
A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So, did you use the word smart?
It's quite the predicament.
So you graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me.
Another term of Trump.
But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
Or an alternative some say isn't worthy of the task.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me.
Right now, it's anyone's race to win.
You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.
You're going to stand right next to me. There you go. And then we're going to have Daddy put his left hand in the Bible if he can.
He's having fun. Thank you, sir.
No serious passion. You should come here.
Here we go.
Yeah.
On the back, keep it spread out a little bit, like that, hold the Bible. Hang it down.
Everybody else is looking forward to seeing you with the friend.
Grandpa's one of those guys.
That's nice.
No, I'm not saying it. He knows I mean. I genuinely mean. I tell you what, honey, what I'm going to do, if you give me an address, I'm going to write you a longer answer and tell you the exact things I would do, okay? Okay? Promise? I'll bet you're as bright as you're good looking. I tell you what. What's your favorite subject? Journalism. Whoa. Whoa, I better be more circumspect in my answers. Those guys back there. Look, come here. Come here. Go ahead, the next question.
I love it. Okay, over here.
Washington Post, New York Times, all these guys. You ought to go back and talk to them, okay? All right? And by the way, that's one of the things that's a dangerous idea. You know, as these guys will tell you, I'm not always their favorite subject. But the truth of the matter is, the reason we are who we are is called a free press. Continuing to denigrate is dangerous.
It's rare to get this close to President Obama.
Somebody's gonna make noise over there, guys.
And even rarer to get away with this. 8-month-old Cooper Wagner sticking his whole hand right in the president's mouth. But then again, we're heading into an election year, and babies are a mainstay on the campaign trail. Just like in politics, the reception isn't always warm.
Oh, you gonna hide?
This kid didn't even want to be seen with the president as he and First Lady Michelle Obama visited military families in Hawaii Christmas Day. As the Obamas first entered the chow hall here, the president went straight for a newborn who didn't seem too impressed.
Sleeping through the whole thing. Yeah.
Perhaps it's no surprise the president gravitates towards his youngest constituents. He does well with them. Back in June, as the Obamas worked a rope line on the south lawn of the White House during the congressional picnic, a baby that could not be consoled by the First Lady was immediately won over by the president. In comparison, these visits in Hawaii weren't quite as successful. But hey, on the campaign trail, at least this wasn't afoot. Brianna Keeler, CNN, Honolulu.
Oliver is upset that Mom's up here and he's not. Now, if you want to bring Oliver up here, that's fine. Yeah, come on. Look, he's got his little suit on and everything. Look at him, got the bow tie.
Say hi to Mr. President.
Hey, man. High five.
High five.
There you go, all right. Now that we got that settled, give it up for the 2015 WNBA champion, Minnesota Lynx. As Maya says, we're not super rich like the guys, but money is not everything when you're talking about dynasties and legacies and inspiring young women and men and opening people's minds. Although money is useful too. And I am for equal pay for equal work.
The story behind the picture, that Norman Rockwell scene at the White House today on the lawn, the annual Easter egg roll, but one little boy was inconsolable he didn't win, so the leader of the free world made it clear sometimes everybody just needs a hug. ABC's Paula Ferris.
Thousands of happy young faces from today's Easter egg roll, except one, as the president is high-fiving children.
Good job, guys.
He notices little 5-year-old Donovan Frazier sitting down in tears. The president bends down, picks up little Donovan for a first hug, offers him an Easter egg. Then listen closely as he encourages the little boy from Scranton, Pennsylvania, to shake it off.
Take it off. Take it off. There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
The commander-in-chief, now comforter-in-chief. The president knows all about shaking it off. When the festivities took him to the basketball courts, he missed more than he made, only sinking 2 of 22. So you see, little Donovan, we all need a hug sometimes, and maybe, just maybe, it was the president who needed that big hug from you. Paula Ferris, ABC News, New York.
Hi, kids. Are they all great students? Nice to meet you. She's a teacher here? Yes. You are president.
Oh, good. Yes. What's your name? Michelle. You know, I know Michelle.
Actually, I was only kidding. You can get the baby out of here. I think she really believed me that I love having a baby crying while I'm speaking.